Before I start, I just want to reintroduce myself. So my name is Rebecca Groves, and I am the Skills and Talent Strategy Lead here at Wired Sussex. So the idea of this talk is supposed to be getting ahead in the sector. And as I was writing the presentation, I was sort of thinking, is it getting ahead? Because it's not like we're all aiming for a finish line. Maybe we are, maybe that's retirement, I don't know. But it probably doesn't exist by the time we come to retire. But it's not about getting to a finish line. It's about just sharing with you guys some practical experience about how to find jobs, how to position yourself, and how to sort of have some fun along the way, hopefully. Also, I'm a massive film and TV geek. So over the past year, whilst I've been on maternity leave, I've mainly been watching film and TV programmes. So that's what's inspired these slides. So prizes at the end for anyone who can guess the movies. I was going to do this whole thing where we were going to do a quiz as we went along, but then I thought, stick to the script, Rebecca. So I'm going to start thinking a little bit about yourself, and then talk a little bit about how to find opportunities, and cover a little bit about what companies look for when they're recruiting. Probably talk about 15 minutes or so, depending on how my voice lasts. And I'm going to try and give you guys some practical experience from my point of view, and how Wired Sussex as an organisation can help you. So I also just wanted to point out that there's not a magic formula for how you're going to get your perfect job. It's sort of about being a little bit flexible, a little bit creative, and seeing how your journey goes. So before we get started, I think it's really important to think about yourself. So I think it's really important when you're starting to think about your careers to think, what do you want from your job? So what skills do you have that you want to utilise? What sort of organisation do you want to work for? Do you want to work full-time or part-time? Do you want to be a freelancer perhaps? Because I think, as Flo was saying, there's lots of opportunities out there. So I think if you can have an idea yourself of what you're looking for, that can really set you off in the right direction. So how many people have an idea already of the sorts of roles that they'd like to do? Just a couple. Okay, that's nice, flexible. I like it. I never know with my next slide because I love it, but it's questionable. So it's not from a movie, but curate your online profile. I can never remove it because I love it so much. So I don't know if you know this, but this is Tom Hardy's MySpace account. And for me, I think this just really signifies the importance of curating your online profile. Everything we do now is online. And I think once you know the sorts of jobs that you want to go for, it's important to make sure that what you have online reflects that. So there's lots of tools that we have now to do that. I think LinkedIn's really key. So if you know that you want to be working as a developer, then make sure that on your LinkedIn profile you've got that listed. Look for groups that you can join. In Brighton, there's lots of groups for pretty much everything. So look on LinkedIn, what groups can you join, and not just locally as well. That's the beauty of social media, isn't it? You can connect with anything around the world. So make sure that your LinkedIn's up to date with any relevant experience that you've got. Make sure that you join groups, and make sure that you're connected with people. Also, Twitter's a really key tool, although as I give this talk to students, I find out that they don't actually use Twitter as much. So how many people still use Twitter, or is it? Okay, quite a lot here, so that's good to know, because, yeah. So on Twitter, make sure that you're connected with people who are working in your sector. Make sure that you're looking at sort of content that you can be retweeting. And this means that when people when you're applying for jobs and people Google you, which they will, and they come across your Twitter account, it just shows that you're connected with the sector, that you are abreast of what's happening. And then if you do want to have pictures of yourself in your pants, by all means, fill your boots, but perhaps just lock that down so only your friends can see it. So once you know what you want to do and you've created your online profile, you can start to find some of the opportunities. What's great is jobs boards, I think, because rather than you having to go out to every company and try and find the job opportunities, jobs boards are a great opportunity to draw all of those opportunities together and to package it in a single place for you. So you can sign up to job alerts, you can filter jobs by the places that you're looking, and Wired Sussex can help with our jobs board. So does anyone use our Wired Sussex jobs board already? Yeah, quite a lot, great. So you probably know this already, but we have a jobs board. You can filter it on the types of roles that you're looking for, and you can also sign up for job alerts. So you can select the sorts of roles that you're after, and then we will send you an email when new jobs get posted. You can also be quite proactive. So going to events is key in Brighton. As Flo said, it's such a small city, really, and a lot of jobs actually don't get advertised. It's through word of mouth. So actually going out to the events and meeting people is a really good way to start to find job opportunities. It can be quite daunting going to those events. I think the only thing I fear more than public speaking is actually arriving at a massive event and not knowing anyone and sort of standing in the corner twiddling my fingers or hiding in the toilet. So I think just be aware that most people feel that way. Don't be too anxious about it. A lot of the events that are run in Brighton are community events that are run by people who are passionate about the subject that you're going to learn about. So if you're going to if you want to go to Code Bar to learn how to build a website, the people that run that event are passionate about building websites. And if you drop them a message and say, I'm coming for the first time and I don't know anyone, I'm sure they'd be happy to sort of make some introductions. So don't be afraid to call it out, I guess. And once you've been going to a few events, you will find that you start to make contacts, and then it all becomes a lot more fun. But whilst it is fun, remember that you are there with a purpose, which normally is to try and find a job, or could be to find a job. So make sure that you are taking business cards as well. So when you go to events, I always say to just make a little business card. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, but just so you have something to give to people. And as much as giving the business cards, I think it's really important to collect business cards. And what I do, because I have an awful memory, is always write on the back of the business card who the person is, where I met them, and a little note of anything we discussed, so that the next day, when I'm emailing people back, you remember sort of what you talked about, because you could talk to a dozen people in an evening, and the next day, depending on how much was drunk, it can all be a bit of a blur. So that's my sort of top tip. Get out to events. Don't worry if it's nerve-wracking. It will get easier, and collect some business cards that you can follow up with. Wired Sussex can help again, because we have our events calendar. So there are so many events that take place in Brighton, and Jasmine does a very good job of sort of hunting those out for you as well. So anything that we come across, we add onto here. People add their own events on here. So pretty much guaranteed, anything that you're wanting to go to an event about, as long as it's within our sector, will be on our website. And also you can sign up for alerts for this as well. So once a week, it'll pop into your inbox and you can see what events are taking place. I'm also really excited to say that we're going to be running our Talent Festival again this year. So our Talent Festival is a 3-day talent festival, as the name suggests. And what might be particularly interesting for you guys is on the first day, on the 18th of June, we have a massive jobs fair where we have 40 companies exhibiting. We have lots of talks about how to get into the industry, CV techniques. It's taking place just across the road from here. We had like 1,500 people come last year. I was talking to companies today, and they say that they're still getting in contact with people that they met last year at the jobs fair. So it's a really great opportunity to come along, meet some companies face to face, go to some talks, get some top tips. And we're going to send you a link to sign up to that. So I would really encourage you to come along. Also, I would say to be proactive. This isn't a movie. This is one of my favourite books, but which I would really encourage you to read, actually, if you want a little boost in morale. And it's all about just, you can do things yourself. You don't need to have permission within our industry. If you want to be a copywriter, start a blog. If you want to be a filmmaker, make some films. And that's one of the key things that I say to people is you don't need permission. And particularly, I used to work in film, and when I was looking for people to come and work on productions, I just was interested in what content have you been putting out there? What are you working on? Because it's so important to be proactive. It's so important to have enthusiasm. So whilst you're looking for your job, don't let that stop you following your passion. So now we know you've had to think about what you want to do. You found a job that you want to apply for. So then what are the companies looking for? And I'd say, hurrah, a lot of the hard work is done. I don't think Rocky says hurrah, probably something more macho. But the good news is that doing a lot of that stuff we were just talking about means that you're already putting yourself forward as a candidate that companies would want working for them. You're showing that you're proactive, you're showing that you're engaged, you're showing you're enthusiastic. So now you just need to package this together to show them. And I think job descriptions are a really great way to do that. So I always think of job descriptions as like a map for an application. All the information is there. You just need to follow it and show how you meet that criteria. What I tend to do when I'm doing applications is look at the job description and then mirror my CV with that, or if it's a job application form, sort of same process. But when I used to be shortlisting, I would literally have the job description in front of me, and you just want to see that the people that you're shortlisting have got that experience. So I think just try and follow the job description as much as you can, and pull out the key things that the companies are looking for and try and relate that to your experience. So if they say that they want someone who can write engaging copy for a website, don't just put, I can write engaging copy for a website, but try and actually give an example of where you did that. So when writing an Amy Poehler blog, I did exciting content regarding this, and just try and bring it to life. Try and bring it to life with examples. Also, be prepared, and sort of Flo covered a lot of this, so I don't want to sort of go over it into too much detail. But I would really encourage you to do research into the company that you're interviewing with. Have a look at their website. Are there talking points? Have they just won any clients that you can be discussing with them? Look back through your application before the interview and remember what you've actually said you've done. You may have padded that a little bit. So, remember what you've said you're going to do, what you've done, and make sure that those examples are fresh in your mind. And there was also, someone once said to me, I don't know if people have heard about the STAR technique. Does anyone use that? So I always try and keep that in mind because I get verbal diarrhea. So I just sit down and it all comes out. That was an awful example. Cut that from whatever we're filming. Sleep deprived. So the STAR technique basically is if you're asked an interview question, you can structure your answer. So S is for situation, T is for task, A is for action, and R is for result. So if they were to say to you, could you tell me an example of where you spoke at an event, Rebecca? I could say, I spoke at a talent talk event. My task was to talk about how to get a job in the industry. The action that I took was that I did the presentation, said some slightly inappropriate things, but the result was everyone had a great time. So, and it just sort of means that you're fleshing out your answers. So they're kind of like some practical tips, and sort of to Flo's point, just the basics as well. Make sure you know where you're going, make sure you know who you're going to be interviewing with, make sure you allow yourself plenty of time to get there, and just give yourself some time to settle in beforehand. Don't just rush straight off a buzz into an interview. Kind of just give yourself a few moments. And being enthusiastic, and I honestly cannot say this enough, the amount of times I interview people and I think, why are you even here? Like, there's just no interest. There's just like, I think I'd like to have, you want someone to come in and for them to wow you. And it doesn't need to be the experience. It doesn't need to be that they're the best, necessarily the best experience, but you want them to come and really want this opportunity. You want, when you're hiring for new members of staff, quite often it's because something really exciting has happened in your organisation. So you're growing, or you've won a new project, or there's something happening, and you want someone else to be able to seize that enthusiasm and run with it. So it sounds like quite a small thing, but honestly, enthusiasm is key. And then following up, follow-up emails after the interview. So after the interview, I quite often recommend that people just drop a quick email and say, thank you for your time. If you have any additional questions, if there's anything that you didn't cover in the interview that you'd wanted to, you could perhaps pop that in the follow-up email. And also to Flo's point, if you haven't got the job, then send an email and just say, thank you for your time. If anything else comes up, then please bear me in mind. And that actually happened to me once way back when I was starting in my career in film, and I went for a job interview it was sort of a couple of rungs under what I was doing, but I couldn't get a job, so I was just applying for anything. And I applied for this job and I didn't get it, and I was so angry and so disappointed, and I thought, I don't understand. I've got my degree and I've got all this experience and I can't even get this job. But I thought, no, be polite. Remembering my parents in my head, be polite, be gracious, say thank you. And then they actually came back to me a couple of weeks later and said, you weren't right for that job, but this other job, which was like 2 steps above what I could do, had come up. And then that's how I actually started my career. So I honestly can't recommend enough just following up, being gracious and polite. And that's it for my for my side. I was going to ask any questions, but I think we're actually going to bring everyone back together for the questions, which will be nice. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and bearing with me.